I have no understanding. Those were the under oath words of Donald Trump Jr. today when his temporary job title was witness number 21, called to the witness stand by New York Attorney General Letitia James to testify against his father. Donald Trump Jr. is a co-defendant with his father in the case, and because it is a civil case, the defendants can be forced to testify. There was a time when Donald Trump Jr. was the least likely member of the family to go to work for his father and eventually become a co-defendant with him. In a profile of Donald Trump's first three children in New York Magazine in 2004, in which they all cooperated with the reporter and were interviewed, there is this passage about Donald Trump's very messy and public divorce from their mother, who accused Donald Trump of violence against her in a book. The magazine article says, quote, Donnie blamed the divorce on his father. And that's perhaps not actually what it was, he says, a bit haltingly. But when you're living with your mother, it's easy to be manipulated. You get a one-sided perspective. He didn't speak to his father for a year. In that article, Donald Trump Jr., who didn't speak to his father for a year, made it very clear that though he is the firstborn and has his father's name, he knows he is not his father's favorite child. That status, he acknowledges, belongs to his sister, Ivanka. In the New York Magazine article, their mother said this about Donald Trump. He's not the kind of father who would choo-choo, goo-goo, noo-noo. He would love them, he would kiss them and hold them, but then he would give it to me because he had no idea what to do. Give it to me. The New York Magazine article gave the least attention to Eric Trump, something he is surely used to. Eric Trump, who is also a co-defendant in the case and will be forced to testify, occupies a revealing paragraph in the New York Magazine article that just might be everything you need to know about Eric Trump. Quote, Eric, who seems the most inclined to look on the bright side, believes his parents' breakup cemented a deeper bond between him and his siblings. Donnie, in a way, is like a mentor. He kept tabs on everything that my grandfather taught him over the years and that I was too young to appreciate. And I'm definitely closer to Ivanka because of it. She took me under her wing and raised me, took me shopping, tried to make me cool. Well, at least she tried. Ivanka Trump is described in the New York Magazine article as speaking, quote, in a Madonna-like European accent. And she is the most defensive about how easy their lives have been. We've all made peace with the fact that we will never be able to achieve any level of autonomy, says Ivanka, no matter how different a career path we choose from our parents. People will always say, we wouldn't have gotten there if it hadn't been for our name. A name cannot get you through medical school. You have to do the work. You have to do the work in high school and in college and to get to medical school, which is going to be more difficult than high school and college combined. The Trump name would not have helped if any of them had joined the military, which no one in the Trump family has ever considered doing. There are many, many things the Trump children could have done that would have left no one saying that they got that because of their name, but instead, they all chose the one thing that they could only get because of their name. They chose to go to work for their father. The father who Donald Trump Jr. didn't speak to for a year because of his treatment of his mother, and because, according to the legal findings already made by the judge in the New York Attorney General's case against Donald Trump, the Trump children's father was running a corrupt business rife with corrupt and illegal business practices. They all dutifully played their part in their father's corrupt enterprise. Donald Trump Jr.'s testimony in the case began today and will continue tomorrow. The essence of his testimony in his first day on the witness stand was to blame others, the accountants, for the false valuations of Trump assets. Donald Bender, the longtime accountant for the Trump business, has testified that he used the valuations that the Trumps gave him. Today, Donald Trump Jr. blamed Donald Bender and his accounting firm's team. Donald Trump Jr. said he was an outside accountant that we relied heavily on. Donald Trump Jr. also claimed to have no understanding of generally accepted accounting principles. He said he remembered hearing the phrase in accounting class in college and said, "I know nothing about generally accepted accounting principles." Prior to Donald Trump Jr.'s testimony, an expert witness testified that the fraudulent information used by Donald Trump's business prevented banks from collecting $168 million in potential interest on loans. Donald Trump, who has erratically come and gone from the courtroom, did not bother to be there today to support his firstborn son on the witness stand. Donald Trump Jr.'s mother couldn't be there because she died last year. But her words hung in the air in the courtroom as a sort of explanation for Donald Trump's absence today. He would give it to me because he had no idea what to do. Eric Trump probably has no expectation of a loving paternal eye gazing at him across the courtroom when he takes the witness stand. But when Donald Trump's favorite child testifies, the one who Donald Trump Jr. jealously describes as, quote, "daddy's little girl," then maybe, just maybe, daddy will show up.